Many of you know that as part of my job, I take our fifth grade students and a lot of their parents to Washington, D.C. And we recently returned from that trip. And one of the highlights for us is always visiting Arlington National Cemetery and laying a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. And if you've never been there, um, I would encourage you just to look it up and to Google it and watch some of the ceremonies that go on there. The tomb was originally set up back in 1921 as a place to remember those who had died in World War One, and then who were who died on the battlefield, but they didn't know who they were. Their remains were such that they didn't know who they were. And so they went through a process of selecting a set of remains that would go into the sarcophagus there and would be a representative of all those who died in World War One and who were unknown. And then that process was repeated after World War Two, again after Korea, and again after Vietnam. The Vietnam veteran was actually later identified, and his remains were moved to be closer to his family. So currently there are three sets of unknown remains representing all those really who have died unknown. And on the sarcophagus there are these words: "Here rests in honored glory an American soldier known but to God." And whenever I visit there, I'm struck by the fact that there is this recognition that God knew who was being placed in there, that although we as humans were not able to identify that person, that God was able to identify that person. But I think as believers, we know that it's more than just the fact that God somehow mystically knew the name of the person whose remains are located there. God knows and knew that person intimately, just as he knows us intimately. David makes that clear in Psalm 139. "O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You understand my thought from afar. You scrutinize my path and my lying down and are intimately acquainted with all my ways. Even before there is a word on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it all. You have enclosed me behind and before and laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is too high. I cannot attain to it." The God who created the universe knows each one of us by name and knows each one of us intimately. None of us are unidentifiable to him. So I would encourage you today to do two things. First of all, pray for those in our military who might be separated from their families, who are sacrificing of their time and potentially putting themselves in harm's way for our benefit. And secondly, take time to thank God that he knows you, that he knows you intimately, that you can't hide from him, and then spend some time getting to know him. I think that's the best way we can honor his intimate knowledge of us.